What's up, guys? JonScottWontStop here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently by popular demand over on TikTok. I have been asked to create a series where I react to Brad Mondo, similar in the way he exploited people failing at doing their own hair to gain himself notoriety as a YouTuber, but then try to play off that YouTube notoriety as his experience in the hair industry. Yeah, that was shade, but it was true. I would love to see him try to prove to me that his success is founded in him doing hair and not him reacting to other people doing their hair. Like, I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So if you're here for my other content and not my hair content, no worries. Like, just skip on past this one. Not a big deal. If you're only here for my hair content and you don't like my more political content or my vlogging content that I will be putting on this channel, then you know what? That's cool too. I'm going to make playlists for those things, and I'm going to try to keep the titles relatively similar. So when you do see it pop up in a notification, you will know that that is what the video is about. Speaking of notifications, be sure to subscribe and check that bell. Set your notifications so that way you get updates on when I'm doing these videos. Now, I'm not too sure about the rules of reaction and reacting. Maybe I should watch a Brad Mondo video because his expertise is YouTube, not hair. So maybe I should watch one of his videos and see how much of a clip I can use. So I'm going to be going back and forth when I am playing that video because I get some bounce back on the sound. I will be muting my mic and then I'll come back in. So let's get started. This video is Brad Mondo's opinion on 50 volume developer. Will it melt your hair off? Let's try it. So before we even get into the video, I want to discuss a few things. His title is grabby, which that's what people do on YouTube. That's fully understandable. No hate there. But if his main concern is, will it melt your hair off? Then he's not explaining A, what it's used for, B, why people shouldn't be using it at home. He's just being like, hey, look, don't use this. This is, and I haven't seen it yet. So I'm assuming based on his previous work. So out the gate, I just want to say, like, that title, I'm not a fan of. 50 volume developer, will it melt your hair off? You can chemically overprocess someone's hair using a less aggressive developer. It's just a matter of what the hair condition was before, what previous services those hair conditions have seen, what you're using that developer with. There are a lot of different things that come into play when it comes to the strength of a developer and how it's going to react with the hair and how we chemically overprocess hair, which is something we're trying to avoid. So let's just dive right into it.
Hi, beautiful. I literally saw this on the Sally Beauty website and said, what the fuck is that? I have been professionally licensed as a hairdresser for 10 years. I have never touched a 50 volume developer before.
I think the most telling part here is he said, what is that? I've never touched one before. He's been licensed for 10 years. I've used a 60 volume. There's a lot stronger than 50 and 60 volume out there. Very hard to find. Not legal in a lot of states according to state board, but they do exist. 50 volume is not as uncommon as he's making it seem. It's just something that those of us that focus our practice in the integrity of the hair before the results of the hair are not likely to reach for a 50 volume. 50 volumes have been used to also bump up your lightener when you've been foiling for a while and you're like, oh, I'm running out just a little cap full of it. It kind of bumps up the developer to help speed up the last few foils to make sure everything lifts evenly. All right, let's get back into this little video.
Hairstylists I asked had no idea this existed in the United States. I know abroad there are like 100 volumes I've heard, but in the US we can go up to 50 legally, I'm guessing.
He's guessing. Stylists that he knows have never heard of it. Okay.
Let's see what 50 volume developer does. Is it going to fry the hair off in 5 seconds, or is it going to provide me very nice lift in a very quick amount of time? I'm actually pretty intrigued and excited to try this out. So you guys know I'm a big fan of 30 volume. 40 volume on the other hand, it's kind of a scary developer. I use this one, Mr. Guy Tang.
40 volume is not a scary developer if you know how to use it. So a lot of doing hair as a colorist or a master hair colorist or a color specialist is understanding how the developer you're using is going to act in part with your formula. we have to consider things like how much lift do we need out of the product? How much deposit do we need? Is there gray coverage? Is there resistance? There's a lot that goes into formulating a hair color for a client. I know a lot of people thinks it's just us like picking a color and mixing it with a developer and slapping it on, waiting some time, but that's not always the case. So a 50 volume developer can be used in many different ways. And I mentioned one earlier about like bumping up your lightener in your last few foils just to help catch it up, just in case, because lightener over time loses its strength as you're working. So you're going to want to bump that up to get the strength competing at the same speed or same lift that the back that's been sitting for a while has. So let's go further into that. This is already off to a bad start. Not just his information, but this is my first video making like this, so we'll see.
Intense. It has been a very long time since I used 40 volume to lighten the hair. Usually, the reason why I don't love it is because it lifts very quickly and then it kind of fizzles out very quickly as well. And I'm like, where is the rest of it? But now we have a new competitor here. Maybe this one will provide me that extra amount of lift that this one just doesn't quite do. Or maybe I'll fall into love with 40 volume or 50 or both, and we might have a throuple. It's 2022, let's be progressive, okay? I can be in love with two people at once, or two developers in this case. I bet you don't really know what a developer.
I thought he didn't like 40, but he's acting like he's in love with it, but he strays from it, doesn't use it too often because it lifts really, really fast, and then it fizzles out really fast, which is not how that works at all. Like all developers work very similar to each other. Some are more conditioning than others. Some are not. It's usually what you're mixing the developer with that will determine how far it's going to go versus and how fast it's going to go. So does he or does he not like 40 volume? Because in one breath he's saying he doesn't use it ever really, like doesn't really like it because it gives a lot of lift and fizzles out really quickly, which is not exactly true. All developers lose strength over time. It's actually a matter of like what you're mixing it with, because you have some lighteners that are designed to cool off quicker, and then you have some that are designed to be progressive to keep going. Those are more like the ones that have like 9 levels of lift and they're a little bit more aggressive. I was going to name some, but I don't want to call any specific companies out because those lighteners do work great for a lot of stylists. I just prefer not to use them myself. Also, we don't just use developer of higher volumes for lightener. We use it for color too, because you can lift the hair with hair color. Generally, a 10 volume will give you deposit only. Something like a 13 volume can give you like kind of almost a half level of lift. You can get 1 level of lift plus deposit with a 20 volume. Some 20 volumes, depending on the product line you're using, will give you 1 to 2 levels of lift. With a 30, you get 2 to 3 levels of lift. With a 40, you can get 3 to 4 levels of lift. Some are a little bit more aggressive, so it could be 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. It just really depends on the company itself. So I'm really curious to see what his explanation is going to be right now.
I bet you don't really know what a developer is and what these numbers actually mean.
I wonder if he knows what they are and what those numbers actually mean. So we're going to find out. I'm sure like these little like clips, he's going to look in a book or something.
In short, these are hydrogen peroxide developers. It lifts the cuticle layer of the hair. And the higher the developer, the more lift you get. It basically is the thing that activates dye-permanent color, permanent color, and lightener. Without it, none of those things will actually work and will actually last on your hair.
False. You can mix lightener with water. You can mix lightener with water and it'll do something. So a lot of the time when we are doing an all over like bleach and tone, I don't like using the term bleach because there's no sodium hypochlorite in hair lightener. But when we're doing a lightener and we put a cap on to like insulate the heat from the body, we will sometimes spray water in there. And that's to help keep the lightener moist, because with the lightener dries out, it stops working. And so the water doesn't actually dilute it very much because H2O is being added to H2O too. So you can absolutely mix lightener with water and get a result. Now, demi-permanents and semi-permanents and permanents, I don't know. Maybe we'll try an experiment on the channel soon. But as far as it goes with lightener, you can mix lightener with water and get a lifting result. So not a great one, but you can get one.
You cannot mix bleach powder with water, but this is the stuff that actually makes the job happen. So
I swear I have not watched this video yet. I even backed it up to be like, wait a minute, because it started halfway through that sentence and I'm like, did he just say what I think he said? I swear I have not watched this before filming, I promise you.
this number with the V next to it indicates how much hydrogen peroxide there is in this developer. 40 volume is 12% hydrogen peroxide. Why do we not just say 12%? Well, some lines do, but it became the standard to say 40 volume or 30 volume, 2010 volume, anything like that. Do I know why? No. Could I find out right now for you? I will. 1 second. I have the reason, and Google has come up with the answer. Every 1 cubic centimeter of this hydrogen peroxide will produce 40 cubic centimeters of oxygen. The volume is used to define the amount of oxygen present / released by the peroxide. And we're gonna leave it at that. And
I'm glad he looked that up. And the answer he looked up was correct. But there is a reason why a lot of hair colorists, specifically master hair colorists and color specialists, will use the term percent instead of saying the volume. So when I mix a formula, let's say I do someone like a brownish gold, level 6 brownish gold with, but I don't want it too gold, but I still really want that gold present. So I also add a little bit of brown ash to it. And they had gray. So I was using, 20 volume for gray coverage. The way I would relay that to a coworker, if they asked me on the floor in the salon, oh, like what formula did you use? I would say, oh, 2 part 6 stroke 7-3, 1 part 6 stroke 7-1 at 6% for 35 minutes. That makes it harder for them to go, oh, a level 6 brown gold, 6 brown ash with a 20 volume for this long. It's a way that we can code our language around clients so they don't take it, because clients will try to take your formula and go to the store and think that every brown gold is going to match, So there's benefits to saying percentage instead of volume. Is it absolutely necessary? No. Does it make you a better colorist for using percentages? No. It just means you're protecting your formulas, and not everybody in a salon will always use the same hair color, and you get some shady people that use the term formula that don't really understand percentages because they never took the time to learn, but it's pretty easy to figure out. So the basics of developers that you're going to use is a 10, 20, 30, and 40, as he kind of explained earlier. You have like offshoots that are like 1.9%, which is 5 or 6 volume, and then you have a 13 volume, which is a 4%. But the rule of thumb is by threes, even though it's a little bit different. So you have 3, 6, 9, 12, 10 volume, 20 volume, 30 volume, 40 volume. So a 3% is a 10, a 6% is a 20, 9%, 30, 12%, 40. So it's reasonable to believe that it would be like a 15 or a 16% for a 50, because really it's a 3.011% for a 10. And then it like climbs from there. Let's get into it.
50 volume is 15% hydrogen peroxide, so a very large amount. We thought this was strong. Oh, girl, I got some competition. Let's get bleaching, baby. Let's fry some hair up.
So I'm really hoping he does more than just lightener. I believe it or not, as much as I dislike the way he's come about his platform, I do have faith that he will try other methods. But I'm just curious to see if his application and knowledge of hair color is going to like really show through with this, because I would be interested to see what he actually does now. So now if I was going to be doing an experiment, right, I would have probably multiple doll heads, or I would have prepped a doll head beforehand. Like I would have a doll head that was all virgin, and then I would have prepped them with lightener, I would have prepped them with highlights, and I would have prepped them with permanent hair color. And then I would have had like a virgin space. So like I would do a couple different panels to test out the reaction the hair would have applying 50 volume to the hair. And I would go from the most gentle formula to the most aggressive formula. And that's not just like how it was mixed, but what it's also being applied to. So that way I could rinse it all off at the same time to see exactly like what kind of a situation happened within the allotted time that we would normally use for processing. It would be strategic. So let's see what he does.
How shall we do this? I'm gonna section this into 2 sections. I am going to color one side with 40 volume and one side with 50 and see what's going on.
I know it's a mannequin head, but like the combing from the root to the end is like, it should, if you, for practice stylists, for people that actually do hair on a regular basis, it should be like a natural reflex to immediately start at the bottom and work your way up rather than starting at the top and dragging your way down. So as a senior stylist, part of my job is to work with junior stylists. It's my job to see what they're doing that's making either more difficult for themselves or what could be possibly challenging the integrity of a hair before, like, say, a color surface. Because the more you rough up the cuticle, the more at risk you put the hair when applying chemicals to it. So this is me being nitpicky. This is just the senior stylist in me, but seeing him comb from the top, I would encourage him to, even on doll heads, to work from the bottom and work their way up, because it becomes a natural habit of yours and you don't have to go, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then start again on a live client. But that's just me.
Does it feel like it's lifting very quickly? What is the deal? We're gonna obviously leave these on for the same amount of time each and do the same exact process for each. All right, I'm gonna mix this stuff how I usually mix it. Eyeballsying it. We're gonna start off with the 30 volume.
Okay, so this is post edit, John. I missed the part because I was just already irritated. Missed the part where he said he mixed the 40 first. So I was under the impression he was reacting to a 50 volume. And now knowing that the first portion he's reacting to a 40 volume tells me he does not have a lot of experience with a 40 volume. Okay, let's get into it. A great way to cause damage to the hair is by not mixing your formula properly. So most, not all, but most lighteners would recommend a 1 to 1.5 or a 1 to 2 mixing ratio, which would mean 1 part lightener, 1.5 parts developer, or 1 part developer to 2 part developers, right? So a lot of us eyeball it, but that you'll be eyeballing in between the manufacturer. So if it says 1 to 1.5, you're eyeballing between 1 and 1.5, and you have an idea of what 1 is, you have an idea what 1.5 is, and somewhere in between that you have your sweet spot. So I think that when you make the disclaimer that you're going to eyeball it, I have faith that if he's worked with lightener at any point ever, I'm hoping he does know the difference between the minimal and the most as recommended by the manufacturer, and he just knows his sweet spot within that space. So just to correct that information for those that are going to try to DIY their hair, which I do not recommend at all. It's more expensive to fix than it is to just go get it done. Those that are going to DIY at home, measure out according to manufacturer instructions. Do not just go for it and eyeball it, because there's a rule here. There's a rule here with lightener. The wetter, the better. The thicker, the quicker. So the thicker you mix up a lightener, the more aggressive it's going to be. The wetter you mix up a lightener, the less aggressive it's going to be. Okay.
We're gonna do a couple of Scoopy Doops. Ooh, girl. Let's get our 40 volume in the bowl. Let's mix it up. All right, you guys, let's get applying here. We're gonna start from the bottom and work our way up. Now, obviously, she doesn't have heat coming from her scalp.
This is me nitpicking again. So this is just for maybe young stylists that are actually stylists. That's not a dig at him. I mean, it could be, but it's not. Those of you that are actually licensed or in school that are watching this for any information that you're looking for, whenever you clip hair up, you don't want to clip it on the side that it twists away from. So if like you twist hair back like this, you want to clip it on this side. If you twist hair forward like this, you want to clip it on this side. You want to clip it on the side it's twisting into. That will secure the hair out of your way more. Well, it creates more security when removing the hair out of your way. So that's just me nitpicking. That's just, he's working on a doll head, so I highly doubt that he cares. But I have seen him use a bobby pin. So I'm not sure if that's knowledge that he's privy to. But that's another one of those things that I would go to a junior stylist and say, hey, clip it on this side. It'll stay more secure. All right. Getting back into it. I am going to nitpick the shit out of this. I'm sorry.
So I have sort of a creamy consistency with my lightener going on, and I'm just going to go as fast as possible, making sure I'm applying at the same speed to both sides.
Doesn't really matter because one side's going to process longer than the other, but you do want to get the times as quickly as close together as possible. Now, I'm actually going to throw him a bone here because he's applying it all the way down to the root, which you wouldn't do on a person, but he's working on a mannequin, so there's no heat source coming from the head. So, like, applying it later to the root on the mannequin wouldn't make any sense. It would just give an uneven lift. I'm sure there are people that are just like foaming at the mouth to critique him on anything they can in his comment section of this video. So if that is a comment that you see, ignore it. But also with a lightener, it's not recommended to put anything higher than a 30 on the scalp. And usually when you're using like a 30 on scalp, you're working with something that's more of a cream lightener. Those are a little bit more gentle, less irritating to the scalp. You definitely should not put a 40 volume on the scalp with lightener, and you should not, for sure, not put a 50 on the scalp with lightener. It's unnecessary with, the scalp being a source of heat.
That way we can really test the power of these lighteners and compare them to each other. Is 50 volume actually that much more powerful? I just feel like it's not. I don't know. So far, the experience with the 40 volume, the scent went away, so that's good. It was just a burst of toxicness, and now we're good. Now we're fine. Thank God. Your boy couldn't breathe.
Okay, so an issue with the way he's actually doing this, that would make it easier for him. Again, senior stylist. So what I always encourage, this actually is what you do with color, and you can do this with lightener touch-ups as well, is wherever your part is, you want to get it on the part the hair, put it on the part. It will help section the hair for you, so you don't have to keep like removing the clip and going through. I mean, if you're in beauty school and you're still taking state board, use your hair clips. But when you're applying color or you're applying something that goes onto the root, in this case, because it's a mannequin head, he's going down to the root, it's fine. It would be easier to section the hair using the lightener, like at the root, and then like going through and then filling out the space. So that would allow him to move quicker.
Make a prediction before I get to doing the 50 volume and seeing how that process is. I feel like the 50 volume is really going to burn the hair. It's not going to be safe. I feel like we're probably going to see some breakage where I first apply the color, and I feel like the 40 volume is going to end up like yellow. I'm just feeling like that's going to be the case.
So hair will turn yellow. Very few people lift on tone. Like hairstylists actually get excited about that when you see them lift and it goes beigeier and beigeier as they lift versus going like red, orange, yellow, light yellow, palest yellow. But there's a reason we have toners. So it turning yellow, that can happen. If it breaks, he did take a few like seconds to stop and talk to the camera, which he's a YouTuber. I just paused it to talk to you guys. So he is stopping to talk to the camera. And I think it's important that we keep that in mind. If the damage is mostly at the bottom and there's not too much of it, it will be from him stopping. It will also be from a slower application because you can't really see him doing this in real time. It is going to clip around. But I'm pretty sure he's not taking his sweet time. I'm sure he's trying to get it on there pretty quickly, but that's not going to prove in any capacity that he got it on fast enough. So 50 volume is a developer that is used by very experienced hair colorists that know exactly how to formulate with it. I prefer not to use it because I put the integrity of the hair before the want of result of the guest. And what I mean by that is if a guest wants platinum hair and their hair cannot sustain it, I will tell that guest no, rather than burning their hair off trying to get there, because platinum hair is cute, but fried platinum hair is not cute. And I'm not going to put my name on that, nor am I going to put them through the trauma and stress of absolutely destroying their hair at the hands of a professional, someone they should be trusting.
Ooh, it is starting to lighten. Dude, it is already blonde in some spots back here. Oh my God. Do you see this? First of all,
that kind of behavior is common with 30 volumes and 20 volumes. Lightener starts lifting immediately. The first 15 minutes of a lightener touching the hair is when it's going to be its strongest. The first 15 minutes is its strongest, okay? And then it starts to like taper off throughout time. Some are designed to taper off Some are designed to taper off faster. Some are designed to taper off slower. But that is not uncommon. That's not like a, oh my God situation. So
It is really quite blonde back here. I don't know if you can like really see that, but it's blonde and it is warm.
so it's lifted to about a level 7, which I mean, it already started off like a level 6, level 7. It may appear lighter. It's hard to tell from video and studio lighting and all that. But it already has an auburn tone to it. So it's going to lift on the warmer side regardless. It's it's like a level 6, level 7. So in the initial stages of lift, that's when you're going to see the most natural contributing pigment come through. Or it's going to seem the most extreme looking, not more of it, but you'll see it's extreme looking. And then over time, the lightener dissolves that natural contributing pigment, making it lighter and lighter and lighter as it goes. So it being like more of a golden tone and orangey tone, that's just indicative of a level 7 coming out of a level 6. So that's absolutely 100% normal for the hair to be reacting like that.
Okay, let's ventilate this baby before it catches on fire. How about that? Yeah, there you go. A little air in there. There you go. Let's not start burning. I need a little bit of hair because I want to know how this works. I don't want you to burn. We got 40 volume on the clock. I don't know how long I'm gonna leave this on for, but I wanna make it nice and bright white. So we'll see how long it takes. Probably about 45 minutes. That took 20 minutes for me to apply that section. So we're gonna do the same thing, but with the 50 volume now. Let's start mixing the 50 volume. I'm excited to see.
He went through and lifted up all the hair to give space for oxygen to get inside, which a lot of lighteners nowadays are starting to formulate so you don't have to do that. But still, a lot of lighteners require you lift the hair so oxygen can get into the inside of the hair to help keep the lightener processing, right? Hydrogen to oxygen too. So oxygen's a big component in getting the hair to lift. What I don't understand, because that was right, that was correct what he did. What I don't understand is why he smashed it back down afterwards with more lightener, because that just defeated the purpose of him lifting it. He took 20 minutes to apply that one side. He should have been able to do it in less than 10. And should have started taking the last bit of lightener he got on before he started going through and adding more and resaturating and continuing to saturate. That's when the time starts. Okay. So he may have got it on super quick and may have spent 10 minutes, resaturating it and then started the timer. The time starts the second you get the lightener on before you start resaturating it. So now that it's sat for 20 minutes, he's going to process it for another 40 minutes. And that means it's going to process for 60 minutes, which means this hair down here is having processed for 60 minutes. And on a human being that produces heat, this part down here would be processing for 60 minutes with 50 volume and lightener and body heat. That's going to break off. But again, he's working on a mannequin head, so I'm sure he's working on it under the impression of it being a mannequin head. But if we're doing an experiment, aside from the root not having like heat, that's just a technicality on how to apply. That's an application technicality. He should be keeping these things in mind for an experiment, because it's, will it burn off your hair, not will it burn off a mannequin's hair.
Oh my God, the time has come in my life where I use 50 volume developer. I never thought that would happen. However, I have done crazier things, so. Oh my God, it's like a child lock on here. You have to like push down to open it, which is probably good because we don't want any children drinking 50 volume developer.
I am now realizing I missed that he mixed the 40 volume first, which makes sense because it's weaker. So you want to use the 50 afterwards. I was under the impression this entire time that he was, because of how he was like, oh my God, look how quickly it's lifting and all that stuff. I thought he was under the impression that was the 50 volume doing that. That's why I was like, yeah, that happens with 20s and 30s and 40s. Like, that's not, it happens with a 10 volume mixing with lightener. Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow.
Okay, so far, I don't smell anything. Why aren't you burning my face and my nostrils right now? There it is. There's the scent.
Basically, I already talked about how, like, when we mix, the manufacturer's instructions will say 1 to 1.5 or 1 to 1.5 to 2. Like, and you need to find your sweet spot in there. If you're going to do if you're going to be doing an experiment, one, he should use the same brand developer. So different developers have different properties to them, like different brands. Like some are more conditioning, some are more aggressive, some are blah, 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 what have you. It's not just the same. It's not the same formula all the way across, because you will get different results using different formulas. You can use them in a pinch, but using different brands, you can use them in a pinch, but in reality, you want to use the formula or the developer that was formulated for the product that you're using, or a developer in the line of the company that created the product that you're using. So he should have used Salon Care 40 and Salon Care 50, not Guy Tang's 40, which is a much higher quality developer than Salon Care. And I know people are going to sit there and try to argue against it. You can argue against it, but I've been doing this for the better part of 2 decades, and I can tell you right now, there is a huge difference. So on top of that, he should be mixing them exactly the same ratio. Like it should be, if it's 1 to 1.5, then the other one needs to be 1 to 1.5. Because again, thicker the quicker, the wetter the better. If one is mixed thicker, which that looks like cake batter, and the other one's mixed more liquid, you're gonna have a quicker, more aggressive lift with the thicker one, and a slower, healthier lift with the wetter one. So as far as experiments go, like there's a lot of like control issues in his experiment. But moving forward.
Oh, I am so excited for this experiment. Oh my god, the 40 volume? Guys, the hair is gonna like fall off soon. I don't trust it. I don't know. I don't use 40 volume. Oh my god, it's only been like 5 minutes. This is going to be bright and possibly fall off.
So far, that hair looks fine with the 40 volume on it. That's how it should look. I find it concerning that he is considered to know what he's talking about with hair, but yet doesn't work with 40 volume enough to fully understand 40 volume. So I would not level somebody up to a color specialist or a master colorist until they understood 40 volume and they had experience working with it.
I'm actually pretty excited about the 40 volume side because I just like getting things on really quick and having them done really quick. I don't exactly agree with like the idea of using a lower developer for a longer amount of time to preserve the quality of the hair. If you're lightening the hair, you're lightening the hair. So you can either do it quickly and be done with it, or you can do it slowly and be done with it, get the same result. The only thing is, the faster the hair develops, the quicker you have to react. So you cannot leave this on for a long time, and you really have to monitor the hair. That is the one thing I will say that is the difference between using like a 20 volume and a 40 volume. Like you need to be there to make sure the hair is not stretching more than it should. I should sit down while I do hair more often. This is pretty comfortable.
So all of what he said is really bad information. Okay. So we don't use a 40 volume versus a 20 to make it go faster. That's not. Earlier in this critique, I said thicker the quicker, wetter the better when it comes to the how you mix your formula, right? How much developer versus how much lightener, and then you go off of like what the manufacturer instructions are to avoid any issues because they design the product, they know how the product works. Yes, we have little rules we can break here and there, but most of us are like, we mix it by eye within the range of their lowest mixture and their highest recommended mixture. On top of that, when we formulate a lightener, there's a lot of pieces that we're keeping in mind. How dense is their hair, right? What is the integrity of their hair? What is their previous color or chemical service history? Is their hair dry and brittle? Are they known to being more resistant? Like, there is so much that goes into how we form. How much lift are we trying to get? Are we trying to get them platinum, or are we just trying to get them lighter? Because if you don't have to do as much chemical damage to the hair, you shouldn't. We're also trying to maintain the health of the hair while getting the client to the desired result. And just throwing a 40 on there and letting it move quick. Someone who has openly said several times in this video that he doesn't work with 40s very often is telling you that it doesn't matter what developer you really use. That was really, really bad information. And for those that are going to DIY their hair, again, don't. It costs more to fix it than it does to just get it done. On top of the money you're going to spend on the products, don't just go grabbing a 40 because you think it's going to work faster. There's a lot that goes into it, and that was really bad advice.
Oh, it is hot as Oh, I thought the other side was hot. This is like, ooh.
That is what we call a chemical reaction, Brad. That's why it's not recommended to add heat to a 30, 40, or 50. It's not recommended to add heat almost 100% of the time when using a lightener, unless the manufacturer says it's okay. And they will usually be very specific on what type of heat source you can actually use. And it's for this reason.
Last swipe on the hair and we're done. And the heat stopped, so that's good. Oh, no, 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 no. Let me start the timer really quick for the 50 volume. Starting now. We have had the 40 volume on for a total of 15 minutes. And guys, look at these roots. Ooh, and then this is 50 volume. They are almost the same color on both sides. All right, I'm gonna let the 40 volume sit for another 5 minutes, I think. And we'll check on that, and we'll check on the 50 at the same time. See you then. Okay, we are still processing. We are 30 minutes in on the 40 volume side, and we are 15 minutes in on the 50 volume side. They are actually the same color now, which is interesting. It sort of makes sense, but it's still really cool to me.
Do you remember that part earlier where I said a lot of stylists will start with one developer and then they'll bump up the developer and then bump up the developer to catch them up to each other for an even lift? He's discovering that. How many years experience has he said he has? The way he's approaching this and being so shocked and surprised, I'm like, this is like usually beauty school stuff. And I don't know if he did an apprenticeship or if he did beauty school, because some states offer it done that way. But what I can say is that either he didn't really pay attention in school, or he only learned the information enough to pass a state board, or he was more focused on results than he was on the integrity of the hair throughout his education. I don't know. I can only speculate at this point, but a lot of the revelations he's having here, he should have already known as a stylist with the amount of years under the amount of years he says he's been licensed.
Okay, this is interesting. We're starting to see the 50 volume side right here start to expand where the 40 volume side is not. What does that mean? I don't know. But sometimes when it expands, it tends to make me a little nervous.
It's expanding because he didn't mix them equally. He's using two different developers and one of them is oxidizing. So my lightener doesn't puff up and expand. It just doesn't. Usually with higher end developers, you're not going to get a lot of like puffing up. Not to say that like high end brands don't, but I'm saying there's quite a few. And if I'm correct, a lot of the people that I've worked with that do use Gaitang's lightener and developers like it because it does not puff up. And so mine doesn't. Theirs don't. Both are good quality lighteners. I don't know too much about Gaitang's line because I haven't used it personally myself. Maybe I'll demonstrate it on this channel just to give my like own review on it. But from what I hear, it's a great lightener to use. Oxidation can really affect the way a product works, behaves, so on and so forth.
Let's take a look inside here. Oh.
I have to make this disclaimer, even though I do it myself. Do not touch lightener with your bare hands. And if you do and it starts to burn me, it doesn't burn my fingers anymore. Him, I don't think he'll complain about it. But when that happens, wash your hands off and immediately put conditioner on your fingers. The conditioner will help big time stop the burn and stop the chemical process. Or at least that's a trick that we've used for years. Okay. So, okay. I just had to say that because he's just fucking raw dogging it right now. Good for you, Brad. But like, tell people not to do that. We all do it, but tell people not to.
Oh, the hair is still intact. Okay, ouch. That was hot. The 40 volume is also still intact.
The strongest point of the hair is going to be at the root. That's why we curl the root first and work our way out. So he was pulling at the root. Like if there's going to be breakage on the hair, it's not going to be directly at the root. Can it happen there? Yeah. If it's going to break, it's going to break mid shaft to ends where the hair is weaker from environmental exposure, having been through more treatments or styling, or it's further away from the scalp. So there's a better chance of it rubbing up against itself and the cuticle layer being damaged and pushed back on itself. So Yeah, it's going to break more towards the ends and the mid shaft than it would at the root.
It is cooled down completely. I don't think we're gonna get any more lightning going on. I mean, I'm sure if I left this on for another 2 hours, we get a little bit more, but I'm gonna stop it there. I'm gonna say 50 minutes is our max. They are literally the same color. I'm gonna rinse out the 40 volume side, and then we're gonna wait 16 more minutes until the 50 volume side is done. These are our clocks. I will be back once both sides are rinsed off and blow dried so we can see the results.
So again, as I said earlier, we use higher developers as we work because foiling can take a while, or when people are a little bit slower, or they're more focused on precision. People will adjust the formula to work with their skill set, or will work with the demands of the service, or the timing of the service, so on and so forth. So if it's even on both sides properly for the experiment, um, you would rinse it because your goal is a target color, not a target time. It just doesn't make sense to keep going if it's already where you want it.
We have the 40 volume side over here. It lifted nicely. It actually feels okay. It's a little crispy, a little dry, but overall, pretty nice lift. We have a little bit of breakage going on. As you can see, it's a little over processed on the root. Even though she doesn't have heat from her scalp, the hair sitting on top of itself actually does produce heat. So she is seeing a bit more damage on the root section than everywhere else.
That is another reason why you're supposed to keep it lifted. And if you notice where the breakage is where he smashed more down. That just insulates the heat a little bit, allowing it to breathe. Allows the oxygen to get in to help the lightener do what it needs to, but also has the effect of not letting it overheat.
Both sides actually on the top lifted pretty much the same. The heat actually is the thing that broke this hair off. I noticed that all of the breakage is concentrated on the parts that had the most hair layered on top of it. So that heat really pulverized it, which makes sense. I'm not seeing a huge difference on the hair that wasn't heated up. It is like pretty much the same color, which is interesting. And they both sat on the hair for 50 minutes. But what this is telling me is obviously that 50 volume is very strong. I don't see like why you would ever need 50 volume when we have 40 volume and it works perfectly fine. If you really think you work fast enough and you really have a tough head of hair that is strong and healthy to start with, maybe consider 50 volume, but I'm not gonna say go do that. Am I personally gonna go grabbing for 50 volume at any point in my life after this? Likely no, but maybe I'll somehow find a head of hair that just looks like 50 volume would be perfect for it, and I might use it then.
As I said, once you reach the desired, see now, had he just taken it all off at the same time when it reached the desired level, who knows? It might not have broken off inside. Had he not smashed the heat back down onto the scalp after having lifted it up for whatever purpose, who knows? There might not have been breakage inside. Had he used it on a hair type that could support it, because that has everything to do with how we formulate a developer into our lighteners, he probably had different results. Had he known why people like even just looked into why stylists use it before making this video, he would have known that sometimes it's just to help catch up. Like he watched it catch up to the other side. He didn't use the 50 with hair color, which I would see it more fitting to use a 50 with a hair color than a lightener. There's a lot of errors with his experimental setup. Or what did he call it? His scientifical experiments, as he would say in a more recent video that I saw on Instagram with bobby pins. That was a shame. Anyway, yeah. So here's the thing. If you are a licensed hairstylist, but do not have enough experience using something like a 50 volume, or in this case, even a 40 volume, maybe don't try to give a professional opinion on it. Maybe learn how to use it, or learn the reasons why it's used before trying to demonstrate it for others. And maybe try other experiments. So like virgin hair, how it works in a foil during a highlighting process, how it works on previously colored hair. Those kind of things, like, so you can really see how it works. And if you're going to compare it to something else, make sure you use developers in the same line, because every developer is formulated differently. Like not all 40s are the same, all 50s are the same. Some are stronger, some are more conditioning, so on and so forth. I really wish he would just stop giving advice on the things he doesn't know. It would be more beneficial. And when he's called out for it by more seasoned stylists, he would take down the bad information or at least post corrections. I'm sure he's gonna have some shit to say about this, which is fine. I honestly don't care. I know he's seen my videos in one capacity or another. All right, guys. So let me know if you like this kind of content. If you want to see this turn into a series where I correct Brad's info. I'm not going to correct his reactions to people doing their hair at home. Like if someone's like, "Oh, did you see what he said in that reaction?" Then I'll go check it out. And if it's worth talking about, then I'll take the clip from it and I'll talk about that clip. Right. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell, set your notifications so that you get more updates from me. I will be sure to title these all the same with like a little bit of a different ending on there. So that way, you know, when you get the notification, it's the content you want to see from me and not the content you don't want to see from me. All right, guys. Until next time.